There he is. All right. Good evening.
Hello.
Okay. Going to begin with a historical prayer. Of course, this is September, a month that we remember 9/11. This is a prayer for the anniversary of 9/11 by the Reverend Jeremy Pridgeon. O God, our hope and refuge, in our distress we come quickly to you. Shock and horror of that tragic day have subsided, replaced now with an emptiness, a longing for innocence lost. We come remembering those who lost their lives in New York, Washington, D.C., and Pennsylvania. We're mindful of the sacrifice of public servants who demonstrated the greatest love of all by laying down their lives for friends. We commit their souls to your eternal care and celebrate their gifts to a fallen humanity. We come remembering and we come in hope, not in ourselves, but in you. As foundations we once thought secure have been shaken, we are reminded of the illusion of security. In commemorating this tragedy, we give you thanks for your presence in our time of need, and we seek to worship you in spirit and in truth, our guide and guardian. Amen. Now the pledge.
To the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'll call the meeting to order and ask the clerk for the roll.
Master Elkins.
I'm present.
Okay. Master Thompson.
Here.
Master Davis.
Present.
Cosentopoulos.
Present.
Blanton.
Here.
Graham.
Present.
It appears we have a quorum. We'll now move on to the adoption of the agenda. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion?
Judge, can we add the note, the receipt of the jail condition report somewhere?
Sure. Let's add that as, let's just note it in the minutes if that's okay,
That's fine.
that we did receive the jail report. Any further discussion?
Yes.
Go ahead.
At the bottom of page 2, those last two motions, one to hire the fire chief and the other to authorize the courtroom.
I think you're moving ahead. We haven't voted to approve the agenda yet, Robert.
Oh, okay. All right.
Any further discussion of the agenda?
What about removing the one order for the hiring?
You have number 14. You can remove that from the agenda. In order to hire a part-time kennel attendant for the Clark County Animal Shelter. Thank you, Janet.
You all froze up on me. So what was that?
Remove item 14. Hiring a part-time kennel attendant at the animal shelter. You hear me, Michelle? I think Michelle was frozen.
Person.
Michelle, are you there?
I am. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what you all froze up, so I couldn't hear you.
Item 14, remove that from the agenda.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor respond by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. Now we move on to item 6, approval of the minutes from September 9th, 2020. I have a motion to approve.
So moved.
Magistrate
I'll second.
Davis and Elkins. Discussion, Robert, you had something for that?
Yeah. The last two items on the second page, one with regards to the new fire chief and one with regards to the county clerk's courtroom. Neither one of those had a motion on the floor to approve an order. I don't argue the fact we do need an order to hire the chief. So we do need that, but we never voted on an order. We voted on hiring him. So if we're going to do this, we need to see those orders prior to voting on them or have them put in our next packet. But in either case, neither one of those motions reference an order of any sort. But I do agree that we need one for the fire chief, but I'm not so certain we need one to authorize the use of the courtroom for the county clerk.
Okay. County Attorney Elkins, did you draw up orders for those? You're on mute.
Judge, I think that's correct. I think I did do them, and I think because this is sort of still remains uncertain territory for us, I think we talked a time or two about when matters like that came up. And, in the course of the meeting or immediately thereafter, if I presented orders representing work done by the court, that they'd be brought on to the next meeting for review by the magistrates. But I do believe I did them.
Okay. So I'm taking it, Michelle, that what Robert is saying, correct me if I'm wrong, Robert, is he would like the two orders referenced in the paragraphs towards the end of page 2.
All you have to do is strike the word order number 2020-114 and order number 2020-115, and we'll put them on a future agenda.
You hear that, Michelle?
But I really don't think we need one for the use of the
Yes.
courtroom.
Okay. All right, and if those orders have already been matriculated, I guess we'll just hold those until we file them. Okay, Michelle? I don't know if they've been produced and sent to you or not, but if they have, we'll vote on them. Well, I guess we'll go ahead and approve them and vote on and provide them after this meeting, and they'll be in the next minutes. Is that possible?
So you want to take them out? You want to take both those off this meeting, this minutes?
Yes. And then if Robert would be so kind as to bring them back up in magistrate comments.
Well, I haven't seen them, so I really can't bring them up. I haven't seen them.
Okay,
Just strike the word order from it and be done with it.
okay. We'll strike the word order and we'll bring them up at the next meeting.
Thank you, Judge.
Okay?
Hold on, Michelle's frozen
I
again.
think Michelle is frozen again.
Either that or she's very still.
Michelle? You just switched places on my screen. There you are.
It froze up on me.
You may want to try going to audio only. I don't think there's a requirement as a non-voting member that you be visible. Am I correct on that, County Attorney Elkins?
Correct.
That might help.
Okay, I'll try it. The only thing is it helps me to see who makes the votes.
You should still be able to see us. Just turn your
Okay.
video off. Yeah, I thought that might help your broadband. I don't know. I'm no
Okay.
technician.
Did you catch what we did there, Michelle?
No,
We
We
just
strike the word
struck-
order.
The word order from both of those two paragraphs at the end.
okay, we're leaving everything else alone, just taking out the word order and the order number, or just the
Correct.
order? Okay. Okay,
Okay. So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor respond by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Public comment is available under the chat feature. We'll now move on to a presentation by Amber Fields Hull with art regarding the First Day Forward program and the Clark County Detention Center. Amber,
Yes, thank you.
you're welcome.
Thank you for me on the agenda today. I'm going to be super brief, but I kind of just wanted to give an overview of what this program looks like and our goals in it. So ART, or Achieve and Recovery Together, along with Northeast AHEC, applied for a grant through the Health Resources and Services Administration to implement a jail program in 4 counties over the next 3 years. Clark County is year 1, so they will be involved all 3 years. And our goal is to pair incarcerated individuals with peer support specialists, and we will go through a series of needs assessments. So we will go into the jail within the first week that they are incarcerated. We will work with them on a pre-release case plan and a post-release case plan. We will provide them with educational opportunities. We'll pick them up when they're released. Some of the things we'll help with are referrals to behavioral health treatment centers, doctors, housing, employment. Our goal is to reduce barriers that exist while they're still incarcerated, so that hopefully when they're released, those barriers aren't as troubling for them and they can be productive members of society. So we've worked really hard with the jail to write protocols and things like that on their side and our side. And within the grant, the jail would be awarded $9,000 a year for allowing this to happen. And then they will also get a laptop because this grant was written pre-COVID. So our goal was to actually go into the detention center. So we've had to kind of alter what that's going to look like during this pandemic. So it'll be on a Zoom platform to start with. If you're not aware, we're already meeting with every single individual that is released from the detention center. We meet them outside the Sally Port to give them resource packets and things of that nature. So this will just be a step ahead of that. So hopefully we'll get to work with them within the first week of incarceration, determine their needs. And we've also partnered with community services and have this new housing program specifically for those released from jail or rehab. So that reduces the housing barrier. They do have to follow our plan, pass drug tests. There's all kinds of requirements. But we're really excited to have this opportunity. Most of our peer support specialists have been incarcerated in Clark County. So we understand what it's like and the barriers that exist and what happens when you get released and how, you may be detoxed, but you get released right into the same atmosphere and it's just really hard to succeed. So our goal here at ART is to always just remove and reduce those barriers so that we have more people in long-term recovery. I'm open for any questions anybody has about it.
When would you expect the money to arrive?
So the $9,000 a year,
Mm-hmm.
they do half after the first 6 months. So 6 months you get $4,500, and then at year 1 you get $4,500, and it rotates like that every 6 months. So the start date was September the 1st. So March, I would expect the first payment to be given to the jail. I think the laptop is already on its way though, Judge.
Do you know, I'm going to assume that's something we're going to have to create a line item in the jail budget for. So we would have to amend their budget to take that in.
Right. I think so. Yes, sir.
Okay. But there's no expense from the jail or the fiscal court outside of the grant funds. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. Anyone else have questions?
Is this a program that you would see expanding on depending on potential success?
Absolutely. So we will gather data. We do that here a lot and hopefully be able to use that to expand and also to show other counties and communities how to successfully implement it.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Is there any paperwork that I would need to sign or approval from the court to sign? Or is it pretty much going through the jail and you just need us to amend the budget?
I think they have to have your approval because of the money piece. So amending the budget and just an approval, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. And when would that be required? Do you know?
I mean, just as soon as possible. So this was supposed to start September the 1st. So we're already trying to work backwards. So just as soon as you could make it happen would be fantastic.
Okay. That being said, I would entertain a motion from the floor. If anyone would like to make a motion to approve the grant funding of this project and my signing on any applicable documentation.
Judge, I-
I'll second that, Judge.
Who is the first?
Magistrates Thompson and Elkins.
Thank you.
I
That
assume we'll need.
motion was to approve the grant and authorize any agreements to be signed.
Okay, one at a time. Robert, you go first.
The motion was to approve the grant agreement and authorize you to sign any necessary documents.
That's correct, isn't it, Travis?
I would agree, but if we need an order, then we can add that language. I don't know if we do or not.
But hey, Amber, correct me if I'm wrong, doesn't Jailer Doyle need to sign as well? Or can Judge Pace sign as far as the detention center?
I think Jailer Doyle was waiting to sign until the approval from.
That's for the Clark County Detention Center. Can Judge Pace sign on his behalf?
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
Just to be sure, according to the statute, Jailer Dole has the charge and custody of the jail. So the activity is going to occur inside there. It would seem appropriate that he sign it.
Okay. Any further discussion?
Judge, just one point of contact or one point of reference there. You may want to check with Treasurer Mayab. I don't think you necessarily need to do a budget amendment so that since there's no funds going out, the revenue can come in and would create a new line item. I think that would be sufficient if I'm
No,
understanding.
I assume that there were funds going out. Are there no funds going to be spent?
Not on the jails, no. It would be coming from our budget, so you guys wouldn't see that. They would just get $9,000 a year given to them.
Okay, yeah, but they're still gonna have to, it's gonna have to come in and go out. It's gonna go out to Art, is it not? Maybe I'm missing something.
No,
No?
that's to the jail for
Okay.
allowance.
Well, then yeah, if there doesn't need to be an outline, we don't need to do an amendment, but we'll just keep that in mind. That wasn't part of the motion, I don't think, so. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, respond by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. Thank you, Amber.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We now have a proposal from Christian Juckett with Rubin and Hayes. This is regarding the Lexington School. Hello,
Yes.
Mr. Juckett.
Thank you, Judge. I'm Christian Juckett. Thank you, magistrates, for giving us some of your time to speak on this issue. I'm a bond lawyer in Louisville, Kentucky. I'm working with Traditional Bank and the Lexington School for a bond issue. So I think also listening is Una McCarthy. She's head of school, and Susan O'Brien's a CFO at the Lexington School. So I'll give you all a little background. In 2018, the county issued $10 million worth of bonds for the school. And that money was essentially loaned. It's essentially a loan from Traditional Bank to the Lexington School in Lexington. And the county facilitated that with a bond issue. So I guess I can back up a little bit. We're bond counsel. So we do bond financing around the state. And so in the county, we've worked with East Clark County Water District. We've worked with your library. We've worked on a multifamily housing deal with Winchester and Rosemary C. Brooks Place. We worked with, the county, and also with the medical center there. We've worked with them and adjoining counties as well. So we work around the state on bond issues of this type. Sometimes it's water and sewer, and sometimes it's nonprofit bond issues like this one we're working on for the Lexington School. So I guess, Judge, you and I have talked a little bit, and honestly, I can't remember which magistrates were on the fiscal court when I approached the county in 2018. But just to give you an idea, a bond issue really just means tax exempt financing. And the IRS and the state allow a 501c3 to benefit from tax exempt financing, but they can't issue the debt. The debt has to be issued by a county or city. So these are called conduit deals because the debt is issued by the county, and then the county essentially steps out. And it's a loan essentially between the bondholder, which in this case is traditional bank, and the school. And so no money flows through the county's accounts, and most importantly, the security for the bonds is the schools. So the reason we're coming back to you all is the school and the bank renegotiated the interest rate. So we'd like to approach the fiscal court with a resolution that would authorize amending the 2018 bond issue. So there are a couple of issues here that you raised that we thought might be helpful for the fiscal court to hear. These bonds in 2018 were bank qualified. So what does that mean? If an issuer like the county issues less than $10 million worth of bonds in a year, they can get a better interest rate from a bank when they borrow next time. So it's important for the county to manage its $10 million if they think they have a project coming up. If you're going to build a new, administrative office building, if you're going to work on a park, whatever, you need to keep an eye on that if you're approached by a 501c3 for bank qualified bonds. In this case, it doesn't matter because the bonds were declared bank qualified in 2018. We're just amending a few terms, so we don't need the county's bank qualification for this deal. If the fiscal court agrees to help us amend these bonds, the county still has in this calendar year $10 million that it can issue for a project going forward. That's bank qualification. Other issues, debt limit. So we talked briefly about debt limit too, Judge. There's a constitutional debt limit for the county. I just want to make sure you all aren't worried about any of these issues. It's 2% of your tax base. So last time I worked in the county was a little while ago, looking at your all's tax base. But at that time, tax base was about $2.5 billion. So that makes your debt limit about $50 million. So you could potentially, the Constitution says you can issue up to that amount in debt. That doesn't apply here, once again, because the security is the school's assets. So the statute, which I can provide to Mr. Elkins if or when he's like to see it, says you don't count that when you count the county's debt limit. So we're not worried about that issue either. Liability is sort of the main issue that comes up. And so in the resolution that I sent to you a couple of weeks ago, Judge, and we'll send it again, and also Mr. Elkins for his review, that resolution specifies that the county's not liable. And it's essentially no city or county would ever issue debt like this if they were going to be liable for it, basically. But the security is just like any loan transaction between a bank and a borrower. It's a mortgage on the property and a lien against their revenues and some accounts. So the county is not liable. What we're really asking for the county is some help to get a better interest rate on the school's debt and a little bit of your time to sign some documents. And at the meeting like this. Okay, so there's no legal or moral obligation for the county to pay. So I guess what we would do if you all give us the go ahead is we'll submit a resolution to the fiscal court whenever you're interested and you're willing to address it for our purposes, the earlier the better. And have you all take a look at it. Mr. Elkins and I spoke a couple of days ago, and hopefully I addressed his questions. And then when the fiscal court's approved when or if the fiscal court's approved a resolution, then we move forward with amending the bonds. Do you all have any questions?
You covered my questions, but I'll open it to the magistrates.
Sounds pretty straightforward to me. Let's just put it on the next agenda and have the resolution to consider then.
Yep, I agree.
I don't disagree.
County Attorney Elkins, are there any other legal implications that we should be concerned with?
Well, Mr. Juckett, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I guess the only question I would have, and you know, it all sounds worthwhile and so on and so forth. Of course, that's a value or a philosophical approach, and I'm only concerned with the legal side of it. What about the assets of the school that will stand good for the bond? Is there a representation being made that you know, the security for this bond or the bond itself ranks in a line of liens in a position where it's capable of recovering collateral, or are we so far down the road here that you know, should some catastrophe occur, that there would actually be no collateral available for this particular bond?
So I can tell you what I know about that, sir. So traditional bank, actually, I looked at their debt. They don't have any other long-term debt. The reason they issued these bonds in 2018 was previous financing that was held by a different bank was maturing. And once they paid that off, they had the revenue stream to build a new project. So they used the funds to improve their ball fields and build a new school part of their building complex there, add some classrooms because they were growing. And so once that other long-term debt came off their balance sheet, they then had the capacity to borrow again from traditional banks. So it's my understanding that traditional bank has the only long-term debt for the school.
Thank you, sir.
So I understand, Mr. Juckett, that Lexington School's located in Lexington, Kentucky, and obviously not in Clark County. So is Fayette County maxed out on the bonding availability for nonprofits?
That's exactly right. So because of their size, they can't meet that $10 million limit ever. So what happens is even though the schools in Lexington, the IRS allows me as bond counsel to find a relatively related governmental entity to issue the bonds. So it came to Clark County because there are employees of the school who live in Clark County. There are, and families from Clark County who send their kids to the school. So currently, maybe, I don't have the numbers in front of me, so maybe 5 kids right now that are going to the school who live in Clark County. And so that, for my lawyer perspective, that gave me the sufficient nexus to approach the county so that the IRS wouldn't say, hey, what do obviously we're not going to go to Paducah to issue this debt. It's got to be somebody relatively close.
And how much would Clark County have available left after this debt issuance?
So you'll have your full $10 million of bank.
Okay.
That's right. So it's my understanding the county hadn't issued debt yet this year for its own purposes. I'll give you an example of how this works. So also in 2018, Sayre Christian Village issued bonds through the county, and those were refunding bonds. So the county did both Sayre Christian Village and Lexington School in 2018. It was able to do that because the Sayre Christian Village bonds had been issued by the county in 2013. They got their bank qualification then, so they didn't need it in 2018. So the county generously allowed their bank qualification to be used by the Lexington School. That makes sense?
I think I'm comfortable with it as long as we can get, and I appreciate your commentary and your information you've offered us. I think it would be best if we had some supporting documentation. There's absolutely no liability for Clark County government or the taxpayers of Clark County for this indebtedness. And I'm sure that's easily something you could readily send, Mr. Juckett. But I think it would be helpful because, this is a lot of money, obviously. So people may ask, why in the world are we doing a bond issuance for a school in Fayette County? That's a natural question people may ask. And I understand it. And I know we've done this for Sayre 2 or 3 years ago in a previous court. I wasn't on the court at that time, but I do remember it. And I know it's been done before. including by, I think, Brooks Place here in Clark County when it was founded. But I think it'd be helpful if you could get that to us before our next meeting.
And I'll take care of that, and you'll see it in the resolution that I submit, and then I'll provide other documentation to Mr. Elkins and the judge, showing how it worked in 2018. And then obviously the real simple, the straightforward break in all this is the judge. If he's not happy, then he doesn't sign anything, and we don't issue bonds.
Any further discussion? All right, thank you, Mr. Juckett. I look forward to speaking with you again.
Thank you, Judge. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 10 on the agenda, consider approval of our transfers. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Item 11, consider approval of the bills list. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second, Judge.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That
I'll-
motion carries.
I lost you all. Who made the motion for the number 11?
Who was our moving second?
For the bills list, me.
For the bills list, Elkins and Davis.
And that was all yes?
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
Item number 12, a note in your minutes, pay increases authorized by the CCFC Administrative Code, Compensation Plan Number 7B. Increases will be effective the first payroll in October of 2020.
Motion to approve.
We don't need a motion on that. That's a note in the minutes.
Oh, just note in the minutes, okay.
Item number 13, consider approval of an order to increase the deputy coroner's salary. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I probably have some, Judge.
Okay, go ahead.
I mean, we have approved some other raises that was retroactive. Why aren't we doing that in this particular case?
County Attorney Elkins, can you address that?
I can. It's my belief that when an employee is working for an agreed to wage, and you go out into the future, let's say a couple of months, like from July 8th to September the 24th, and then you try to add to a salary already earned, it becomes a bonus to them, and under the Kentucky Constitution, that's not permitted. So if we hire somebody, just as an example, if we hire somebody at the road department, agree to pay them X number of dollars, and they're working here for a month before they get to the fiscal court, and we make that hiring retroactive, it was no additional pay other than what the employee understood they were earning at the time, even if it had not been, approved by court order.
I think what Robert is probably asking is at a recent meeting, we approved a raise for the dog warden and the road supervisor. And I believe there may have been some retroactivity involved in that. I think Robert may have even brought that up in the meeting.
That's
What's
right.
the difference?
I don't recall. Actually, I don't recall those specific terms, but in that particular case, the giving the raise was a subject before the court on July the 8th. And the question was, whether or not that was to be done immediately or whether or not that was to be done once the payout on the earned comp time was occurred. There was no question on July the 8th, the employees were due a raise and they were going to be given one.
So basically, because it was brought before the court at an earlier date, and in this case, it was not brought before the court until today.
Well, in that particular case, to place the cost of the delay on the employee while the fiscal court tried to figure out its own financial circumstances would have been more than unjust.
Any further discussion?
Quite frankly, I don't see the difference, but I'm not an attorney, so I don't know if anyone else feels the same way or not, but I still think it should be retroactive, but.
Just to be sure, it's only my recommendation that it not be retroactive. Should the court vote to make it retroactive and auditors find later that it was an unconstitutional bonus, it can be addressed at that time.
If I'm not,
Go ahead.
but if I'm not mistaken, because this is a constitutional officer's employees, he has to submit it to us in writing, and this is what he submitted to us in writing on October 1st, correct?
Well,
Janet?
I think the raises was anticipated because we approved it in the budget. We approved additional dollars in the budget when we approved it.
We did approve it in the budget.
We
And
certainly
we
did.
discussed it.
That was the
We
raise
discussed
approved.
it in the budget discussion.
We certainly did. No doubt about it.
A budget is really just a plan of expenses, though. It's not an actual expenditure. If it's not constitutional to make a raise retroactive, I don't support doing so.
Any further discussion?
Can I offer, maybe I wasn't very helpful. Let me make another run at it. On July 8th, when you were talking about the animal shelter director and the road supervisor, it was then on the floor to give those two employees a raise, but the subject of the paying out the earned comp time came up, and the fiscal court recognized that if it gave the raise at that moment, then the paying out the comp time was going to be an additional and increased cost to the fiscal court. So the matter was stalled to determine what to do about the earned comp time for those two employees. The entire subject matter was about the compensation of those two employees. And then I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 or 5, 6 pay periods passed while the fiscal court was getting around to paying out that earned comp time. I don't know that there could be any argument made that there would have been any justice in placing that delay in those lost earned wages in terms of the raise on the backs of the employees so the fiscal court could save money. That's the difference.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries.
Who made that motion? It was Elkins and who?
I think Thompson.
Thompson?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
The item 14 has been removed from the agenda. We'll move on to item number 15. Consider approval of an order to modify the 2020 holiday schedule for the Clark County Animal Shelter. Manager Thompson, are you going to make a motion?
Motion.
Okay, I think we've got Thompson and Constantopoulos.
Everybody's frozen up.
Well, about half the people are frozen on my screen right now. Any discussion? Travis, you're still kind of. No, I think I can see you now. Okay. Any discussion? Seeing none? Oh, go ahead, Master Davis.
I don't have any problem with it, but I wanted to ask you, Judge Pace. I mean, since you're the chief administrative officer of the county and obviously the supervisor of the animal shelter director and her staff, I mean, this is something I assume that you're okay with this and that you're in agreement with it.
I don't have a problem with it at all. My thought all along was we didn't need to address it in the administrative code because that's more permanent in nature and it's harder to change around. But so long as we can do it via an order, Obviously, if we get a lot of feedback from the public that for whatever reason it's inconvenient, that's something we can address in the future. I don't anticipate that'll happen though, so I think we'll be fine with it.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Okay. Seeing none, all those in favor respond by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion also carries. Item number 16, consider acceptance of an indemnity agreement between the Clark County Fiscal Court and Smith Kerr. Do I have a motion?
I move to
Anyone?
accept the agreement, Judge.
Motion from Magistrate Elkins. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Now, but
Second from Magistrate Graham. Discussion.
what is the purpose of this agreement, Judge, if I may ask?
That's what I've wanted to talk with you guys about. The Kerr building is currently using trash receptacles around the entire building, and they could save money. The city could save money, and there would be less trash on the streets and less receptacles if they were just able to bring a dumpster and then empty it by crossing county property with one of their trucks. So there is a release from claims that WMU requires the county to sign. They did tell me, I spoke with them, they said that they are willing to adjust some of the language in their release from claims. But my thought was, if there were any claim, at the very least, we needed to be indemnified by the entity that it's going to benefit, which is the Kerr building in large part. So I asked them to provide an indemnity agreement, and that's how this came forth. Just trying to cover an additional base should we decide to allow WMU to move across county property, that being the county parking lot, in order to service the Kerr building. Obviously, it's not like they're going to be there for days at a time. They just go to pick up the trash and drop, pick up the receptacle and move it. And I guess, Greg, you know more about that than any of us. So
I do. Is it a paved parking area or is it gravel?
I believe it's paved, but like much pavement, it's kind of broken in.
Yeah, my experience with that is, and of course I didn't know when you have any idea what this agreement was for, but my experience with that is those trucks often twist and turn and will damage a paved parking lot. So
Exactly.
you may have your road supervisor look at that before we allow that to happen and
Okay.
give his thoughts on it, Judge.
I agree with Greg. Those garbage trucks, if they're fully loaded, they come in to pick up that last load. It can do tremendous damage to the parking lot. So we need something from the owners of the Kerr property that if our property is damaged, they replace it. Probably I'll take some photographs before to have some information to go along with both these documents, because without fail, they'll twist and turn those wheels, and that blacktop will be ate up in no time after,
I would add to that. I agree, Judge, with what was just said. I would add to that that there may be a provision in there, but we need to be able to, with proper notice, let's say 30 days, 45 days, to be able to halt or prohibit access. If it looks like that there's an unfortunate pattern of damage to either vehicles or of course to the pavement, as the other magistrates just pointed out. So I think there ought to be some kind of provision for us to be able to stop access. I don't want to create just an unlimited or, endless right they have to come on to that. I'm sort of suspect about this anyway, but I'm willing to give it a try. The other thing is, Judge, the agreement is with just Smith P. Kerr. And now I know that's not probably the name of the corporate entity that owns that property, but it probably needs to be both the owner of the property, and if they have a separate entity that's operating and managing it, probably need to both be parties to it. And we'll just say Smith P. Kerr, I think he's been dead about 100 years, so that's not going to do us much good. So And I'd revise that accordingly, Judge, and find out who the corporate entities need to be on the agreement, not just Smith Kerr.
You may be right about that. My assumption was that Smith Kerr was the owner. So I'll find that out.
Well, like I said, about 100 years ago, so he was 120 years ago.
Well, you know, it could be Smith Kerr the fourth. I mean,
Yeah.
It is.
Go ahead, Daniel.
I think out of Louisville, I think you're right, Magistrate Davis. It is a corporation out of Louisville.
Right.
Could we run all this through the county attorney so we can get an order prepared and everything before we put this back on the next agenda?
Sure. I will. How about we continue it without a specific meeting date? And I will put it back on the agenda when we are through dealing with it.
Get those items straightened out and an order to go along with it. And hopefully we'll just have to deal with it one more time.
Judge,
Okay.
I make a motion that we
Okay, we've lost Michelle.
table this.
We've lost Magistrate Thompson.
Yeah, we've lost.
Okay, hold on.
All right.
Do you know, is Michelle on Wi-Fi down? She should be on the same exact server as us, I would think.
She's down in her office. I hear her.
Don't forget about Rock the Block tomorrow night. We're all encouraged that we're actually able to open some things up and have folks in. If any of you all want to come down, I'm sure there's going to be social distancing enforced to a certain degree, but it just makes me happy that we've got an opportunity to get people out in public and a little bit back to normal.
I won't be here for it, but I'm glad to hear it as well. It kind of almost starts to feel normal.
I see Michelle. Travis, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay.
You have video?
Yes.
We can't see you. Can you turn your video on?
It is on.
It is on. Okay.
I lost all of you all also.
Yeah.
Can you can't see us, Michelle?
I can now, but I lost all of you.
Oh, a minute ago. Yeah, we knew we had lost you and Travis.
Oh, okay.
Let's see here.
I'm here, Judge, but I can only a couple of you.
Okay. Okay, we now see Magistrate Thompson, or at least I do.
Judge, it's, okay, I see he's back.
I can see him. Judge,
Okay.
I'll make a motion that we table this item until you're ready to remove it from the table.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion has been made to place this item on the table. William, is that, if we put it on the table, does it have to technically be in some sort of old business section from here on out?
I don't think that there's, the Robert's Rules, Judge, are convenient for procedure, but they're not a straitjacket, so to speak. So you can remove it from the table, put it back on your agenda when necessary.
Okay, fair enough. Any further discussion of tabling this issue? Seeing none, all those in favor respond by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. We have lost video on Magistrate Thompson again. County
It's
Attorney
okay.
Elkin, who was the second?
Yes, I didn't get it.
I was.
Okay.
Magistrate Graham was.
I'm sorry, guys, but this is horrible for me tonight. Sorry.
Do
We
you
do
have
have
it
to-
on wireless, or do you have a line into that box down there, Michelle?
I've got lining going into it, but we don't have good Wi-Fi in here, so that's what makes it so hard.
Okay.
I apologize.
We do have to wait until we get Master Thompson back on video. There he
There
comes.
he is. Okay.
I've been here the whole time, but I can't see.
Moving on to item number 17. Consider acceptance of an agreement proposed by the joint City-County EMS Committee between the City of Winchester on behalf of Winchester Fire EMS and Breathitt Wolf EMS, Inc. Do I have a motion?
Go move.
Magistrate Elkins has made a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second for purposes of discussion, Judge.
Magistrate Davis has seconded in order to discuss. I assume you have some discussion, Magistrate Davis.
That's correct, Judge. Judge, I haven't looked at the agreement. I don't have any agreement or problem with the agreement per se. And of course, as you know, I'm on the EMS committee with yourself and Magistrate Elkins and Mayor Bertner and Commissioners Flynn and Reed for the city. And it may be a procedural question, Judge, not only for the court, but for County Attorney Elkins. So when we discuss this agreement, which this would put Wolf Breathitt handling the transfers, now not 911 calls, but the interinstitutional transfers. We discussed this, of course, at length in our most recent EMS committees, and there was a motion made in the last EMS committee to approve the contract with Wolf Breathitt. As you may recall, Judge, I made a motion to amend that to add the condition that Clark County's contribution to any deficit for the fiscal year in our interlocal agreement, now that's the agreement with the city and county, be capped at $450,000. And we had some considerable discussion about that, and we came to an agreement on that it would be amended, the interlocal agreement, and that the agreement would be reviewed no later than March 1st of next year, and then every year thereafter, I think was the intent, and that's certainly fine with me. I have a little bit of a considerable amount of reservation going ahead approving the agreement when I know County Attorney Elkins and City Attorney Dykeman have been working this week on the language to amend that interlocal agreement, which of course would have to be approved by us and City Commission. So I think, Judge, we need to discuss procedurally if we even want to move forward with the Wolf Breathitt contract tonight, or we want to potentially vote to approve it with the caveat that, our approval only becomes effective upon amendment of the interlocal agreement. And I'm certainly open to everybody's thoughts about that, but that was the agreement that we reached, of course, in the EMS committee. Have to be approved by both fiscal court and city commission. It was approved unanimously in the committee. So I felt like we need to discuss that, Judge, because I know County Attorney Elkins been working this week, and I've spoken with him, and I know he's been sending the document back and forth with City Attorney Dykeman. So That's where we
That
are.
is the next
Judge.
item on the agenda.
Yeah.
The interlocal agreement is the next item on the agenda.
Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't have the revised. I apologize, Judge. I didn't have the revised agenda in front of me. So that's been added then.
Correct.
Okay.
It has, but Magistrate Davis, you make a good point. We may be better served to consider the interlocal agreement first and then the Breath at Wolf agreement second.
Can I make a suggestion?
Yes, sir.
Why don't we have the county attorney prepare an order approving both at one time? And we can approve the order that would authorize the signing of both these documents at the same time.
Well, interestingly enough, on the Wolf Breathitt agreement, they haven't even included a signature for the judge. It's just a signature line for the city and one for
Right, you're
Breathitt
right.
Wolf. So, but I agree with you, Robert. It would be nice to just deal with it globally, you know,
I
in
think
one
you're right.
in one decision or one vote, and with an order to follow or whatever, however we want to do it or should do it procedurally. But
It would, I would like to, if we could, I would like to consider and vote on the interlocal agreement tonight if possible. And, you know, I think I've said, Magistrate Davis and I talked about this earlier in the week. I don't know that we have a need to approve the Breath at Wolf agreement or not. I don't mind approving it or accepting it or whatever the city may wish us to do. Or consider it anyway. But the interlocal agreement amendment that Magistrate Davis suggested, I think is a good amendment, and it is one that I would like for us to take up as quickly as we can. Of course, if you want to put it off to the next meeting with a global order, I'm okay with that too. But I would prefer to consider the interlocal agreement now if we can.
Attorney Elkins, I have a question just in regards to the agreement that we've been asked to sign by the city with Breath at Wolf. If we were to include something along the lines as a friendly amendment, the language that Magistrate Davis mentioned in the very beginning, that our approval is subject to or does not become effective until the interlocal agreement for county emergency medical services as amended, we would vote on later tonight. It does not become effective until that is approved by both bodies. Is there any problem with doing that from a legal perspective?
Well, I think the hang up's going to be that this BW agreement is seen as an addendum to the 1997 agreement. So until you have a 2020 agreement in place and make this an addendum to the 2020 agreement, I don't know that it can be treated globally. So
and that makes
sort of isolated to whether or not it's going to be an addendum to the 1997.
I probably feel better addressing it that way, Judge, and now that county attorneys articulated it that way, because it's, you know, we've always, well, the last couple months that we've been talking about this, we've treated it, you know, as two separate agreements or two separate documents, and in a sense they are. You know, it's a one is a contract with Wolf Breathitt, and the other is the interlocal agreement with City of Winchester, which has been in place for over 20 some odd years, 25 years. But I think if we could clarify that the Wolf Breathitt is indeed an addendum to the existing interlocal agreement, that would seem to clean it up.
William, could you give us any guidance based on your conversations with the city attorney as to any stumbling blocks that we may run into?
Well, you know, we could make mountains out of molehills here by looking at paragraph 3 on page 1 of the BW agreement and say, you know, that it says August 1997 agreement. But should we approve a 2020 EMS agreement, then I think that becomes very little more than a typo. It's just a matter of revising that year and then treating it as an addendum to the new agreement. The discussions with City Attorney Bill Dyckman have led to what I believe is a final version of that EMS agreement. I've circulated it during the course of this meeting to the members of this panel. Including the final changes that the city wanted in it for approval, which were very minuscule. Basically, they wanted to add a qualification every place that the $450,000 cap was mentioned, that it was a $450,000 cap for fiscal year 2020, 2021 to be revisited on March 1, 2021. So there was only about 15 words to add to the agreement that you probably saw earlier today. And I did send that out by email while we were talking. So I think the agreement is accessible by the court at this point and approvable. And then of course, it's just up to the city to make their approval of it. And then the BW agreement can be changed to the September 2020 agreement and be treated as an addendum.
I think that I was going to say, Judge, I think that I saw that revision that Mr. Dykeman requested, that it was for the fiscal year 2021. And I think that's an accurate reflection of what we all understood. And that was the reason why the city wanted it reviewed, sometime early next year on or before March the 1st, and why we were in agreement, because we know if anything's going to be anything between the county and the city on this is going to be discussed and possibly renegotiated, it's going to be that cap. So I'm okay with that.
County Attorney Elkins, do you think there would be any perception on behalf of the city that by delaying the Brett-Wolf agreement, that's not going to catch them off guard, is it, if we wait until our next meeting to agree to that? You don't think that'll, because I would just want to remember that we're dealing in a partnership here of sorts. And I would hate for them to think that we were, not working with them and working against them in some way. But it sounds to me like you've had enough conversations with the city to where that wouldn't be an issue. But I just want to make sure everybody's on the same page.
I don't see that as any stumbling block. I think the progress and the considerate working atmosphere here is bode well for you, and I think it'll continue to do so. I don't think there's, as noted, I don't think there's any need for the county to actually sign the agreement. I think that you're bringing it before the court as a matter of practice for their approval, although there'd be no place for judge executive to even sign. So,
right. I would imagine they just want to be able to say that, hey, we both agreed to this. And if we took a vote at some point, they would be able to say that.
Well, and of course, the parties identified in the agreement are just the city of Winchester and Brett-Wolf EMS Inc. The county is not a party to that agreement. That's because the primary financial responsibility by the 1997 agreement is given to the city.
Yeah. Okay.
But it would become an addendum, I guess, to the interlocal agreement. As I understand you say that, County Attorney Elkins.
That's the language contained within the agreement itself, the third paragraph, page 1.
Correct. Okay. Thank you.
All of that being said, we have a motion and a second. Is there a motion to table this issue, being the Brett-Wolf agreement?
Judge, I'll make a motion to postpone this, I guess, till the next meeting.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Motion has been made and seconded to postpone the Brett-Wolf agreement to our next meeting. Any discussion?
Just a point of order, if I may. So
Sure.
Is it necessary for the county attorney to prepare an order authorizing this interlocal agreement?
County Attorney Elkins?
Well, I think it's just a matter of good housekeeping that the work of the court, especially if something so significant, be reflected in the form of an order.
Yeah, I would agree in this case.
Okay. So we have a motion to postpone. It has been seconded. All those in favor respond by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. Now we move on to the other item of interest in relation to that. Item number 18, consider approval of an interlocal agreement between the city of Winchester and Clark County for countywide emergency medical services. Do I have a motion to approve?
And that is the one we're approving is the one that was the corrected version, correct?
The most recent version? William, did you say you had sent something while we were here?
I have, and so the document is entitled, or is titled Interlocal Agreement 2020 3A at this point in time. It's substantially what you've seen from the very beginning. The difference is, earlier today, we changed the city clerk's name from Diane Lane to Joy Curtis. And then it came to our attention through Mr. Dykeman after the close of business today that the city was interested in adding some qualifications about the 2021 fiscal year. So the substance of the document is exactly what you've been reviewing, and just a little, just those very few changes, 10 words or less.
So the substance of those changes is to simply, I guess, further emphasize that the agreement is for this fiscal year, along with a correction of the name of the clerk for the city. That'd be fair to say?
Judge, I motion to approve this order for this
Second.
agreement.
Motion has been made and seconded. I believe that we will have an order on this at the next meeting. Is that the discussion I understood, William, between you and Robert?
Mhm. That was my intent.
Sure.
Okay. So a motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion?
I just, never mind. I'll let it go.
Okay. Seeing no discussion, all those in favor respond by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. Item number 19, consider approval to adopt a resolution authorizing the Clark County Fiscal Court to execute an agreement with the Commonwealth of Kentucky Transportation Cabinet, Department of Rural and Municipal Aid. Do I have a motion?
Motion
So
to approve.
moved.
Elkins and Blanton. Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. Item number 20, consider approval of an order to purchase 3 7x18 trailers from Central Kentucky Truck and Trailer Sales. And Janet, correct me if I have the wrong numbers on this, because I know you changed this. At the cost of $7,183.44 each, totaling $21,550.32 for the Clark County Emergency Management Agency. Is that the right number?
No.
Oh, yeah, those are wrong. Yeah.
Okay.
The total is 29,683.44.
Okay, 29,000. Say that again.
29,683.44.
And that was, Judge, and I know it was on the agenda, but the new order says 2 8.5 foot by 24 foot trailers, and then 1 7 foot by 18 foot.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
Motion approved.
Is there a
Second.
second? Constantopoulos and Graham. Any discussion?
Judge, are
Yes,
these,
sir.
I know this is virtually all, or is all pass-through dollars, but I'll assume, or can we assume that there's sufficient in the line item budget for this?
Treasurer? Alicia does not have her computer right now, so she can't confirm that 100%, but subject to our previous order requiring line items, and if you want to rely on my memory, I believe that we are within our line items, yes. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor respond by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? That motion carries. Item number 21, consider approval of an order to purchase Kentwood mobile and portable replacement radios using the 2019 CSEP grant funds for the Clark County Emergency Management Agency. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Elkins and Constantopoulos, discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor respond by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion also carries. Magistrate comments. Magistrate Thompson.
I'm gonna stay quiet today, Judge. Thank you.
Okay. Magistrate Constantopoulos, this is the quietest you've been at a meeting. Are you going to be quiet too?
No, I couldn't. I was raising my hand. Nobody saw me. That's why I was quiet. Or I froze up one. A couple of things. I just want to commend you, Judge, and Magistrate Elkins and Magistrate Davis on the work that you did on the EMS committee. I actually watched the meeting that committee meeting and that you all conducted and came to this agreement. And I thought both the city and the county worked very well together, and each side got a little bit of what they wanted. And I think y'all come up with a good compromise and a good solution. So I just want to commend y'all on your hard work, and also the city on their hard work on that as well. And then the last thing I have is regard to the codification program that we entered into about a year and a half ago. I had Deputy Judge Townsend update on where we were on the project, and she said that they relayed to her that hopefully that this project would be completed by the middle of October. So I am correct on that, Deputy?
You're right.
So hopefully that'll be done, and then we'll have an approval of all those ordinances in one group, and then that way they'll be online, so the public will be able to access them, with a keystroke like they do now over at the city. So that should streamline a lot of things. Other than that, I have nothing further, Judge.
Magistrate Elkins.
Yeah, a couple of things, Judge. First of all, I'd like to thank Jailer Doyle for getting the report, the magistrates before the meeting today, and the complete jail packet that we have. Had a couple of constituents that were concerned about the number of voting locations that we have coming up in November. They were wanting to see if we couldn't have more. Maybe it's too late for that. Maybe it's not. But there was some concern that I think the actual word voter suppression was used because we only have a few locations to vote. The Heritage Museum is also doing a fundraiser this weekend, and I was asked to mention that. September the 28th, 5 to 7 p.m. I think the constables are cooking some barbecue along with
Greg, not to interrupt you, that's the Heritage Commission.
That's what I said, wasn't it?
Yeah, you
I'm
mentioned
sorry,
the Heritage
Commission.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah, the Heritage Commission
Heritage
fundraiser.
Commission.
That's correct. Yeah. Sorry if I misspoke. That's at Holyrood, and it's 5 to 7. Barbecue plates are being served, so I encourage everybody to come out and participate with that. Another one of those things that kind of feels like we might be kind of getting back to normal again. So,
Who's cooking the barbecue?
it's not me. I'm out of town. It is probably.
It's Constable Puckett.
I figured it was Constable
Who's
Puckett.
Q?
Correct. Who's Q? That's right.
Who's Q?
And I've had Constable Puckett's barbecue. It's really good. I encourage you to come out and try some of it. Guess that's it. All I have, Judge. So, thank you.
Okay. Magistrate Blanton.
Yes, Judge, I have just a couple of things. First one is just a reminder for the court and the public that Casey Creek Construction will be on site Monday. They're going to work 4 10-hour days till they get the job finished around the courthouse. So be cautious as you come and go to the courthouse, and there'll be a few parking spaces blocked on the north side at some point in time. But I also understand that the city is going to start some demolition work on the sidewalk over from the McAdowny building sometime soon as well. So that bit of information. Attended a Zoom training session yesterday with regards to the election. I think Secretary Adams was encouraging most people to vote early. Early voting location is the courthouse. I think if you're not going to do the mail-in, I think he's actually encouraging people to try to do that if you would. So he did say that. And just a couple of training notes since I started on that. I attended a session today on KRS 100 put on by KCO, and I don't know if they're going to offer it again, but I would certainly encourage any of the magistrates interested in getting some training hours. That was probably one of the best sessions that I've attended. It wasn't a David Pike session. It was the director from Owensboro and one from Louisville Metro, but that was a really informative and good session. So if that comes up again, I would encourage you all to do that. And then the other thing that I have been watching on the Zoom meetings, the Bluegrass ad has actually had 3 different sessions with relating to solar, the solar installations that we've been talking about here. And I do have links to those if someone would like to go back and watch those. 2 has been by the Regional Planning Council and 1 by the Natural Resources Council over there. So those was 3 very informative sessions on those as well. So there's plenty of information going on about that. So if you're interested in those links, let me know and I'll send you those links as well. Aside from that, that's all I've got. Thank you.
Thank you. Master Graham,
I have nothing. Thank you.
Master Davis.
Judge, a question, or I guess a follow-up. I understood earlier this week that there was a delay in our new fire chief being able to start officially. That was an issue with the retirement board. Has that been resolved?
It is not yet resolved. Basically, they say it'll be resolved within 10 days, and it's been 5. To give you a little, the frustrating thing about it is they sent a letter back to him saying they needed more information from Floyd County, and he's never worked in Floyd County. And I would think that if your department, was that far off and made a mistake, you'd move somebody to the front of the line. But apparently, he has to wait, just like everybody else, for them to correct whatever the errors are in the paperwork. So, currently he is on hold, but within 5 days, there should be something coming back from him. I don't know if that's business days or days. I can't tell you for sure.
Judge, I know I've had my turn, but if you don't mind, I'd like to ask that you, if you know or have an update on the animal composting and the dead animals pickup that be going on. I know that's getting ready to pick up and get a little more aggressive as weather continues to decline.
Yeah, we have to basically send in some more information on that. They requested more information, and then we have to file a report, I think by the end of October. So that's where we are on that. We're still dealing with the paperwork. We don't expect to actually have any feet on the ground, so to speak, until closer to December, January, I believe.
But you do think we will get that done though, right?
That's the plan. I can't promise approval by the state.
No, I know that, but I think our convoy agreement expires in January. Is that correct? If I remember correctly.
Oh, I don't know that off the top of my head, Greg. I can find that out for you.
Seems like it was January or February, wintertime, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I want to say that we entered into that towards the end of February, but I don't know for sure.
I think you're actually right about that. I think it was February. I believe that's right. Okay, thank you, Judge. I just wanted to see where we stood on that.
Okay. I assume Magistrate Davis is done since he left the video screen.
I'm not ready to yield my time yet, Judge.
Sorry,
Okay.
Magistrate Davis, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Judge, if you would, on the issue with Chief Asbury, if you'll just keep the court updated on that. I'm disappointed he wasn't able to start when we had hoped, and I'm sure when he had hoped, but if you'll let us know. And Judge, I would just, which I know you will, but I would encourage you, if this continues to be an issue, then I'd ask you to get, the county attorney involved, get that straightened out. I mean, I think people, Clark County, want and expect full-time fire chief, and we all want him to start as early as possible, as soon as possible. So
Yeah, I think
I hope that in 4 or 5 days it's resolved, but if not, let's push as hard as we need to.
we've contacted our DLG field rep, and he is supposed to be helping us with that. So if that's ineffective, then, well, I mean, Magistrate Davis, you're kind of aware of how it goes. The next escalations may very well be contact from the county attorney, something along those lines, but hopefully it'll be resolved before we have to do that.
That's all I have, Judge. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see. I had several things that you all have already spoken about, so let me look at my list. We are going to need to look at rescheduling fiscal court meetings perhaps in November and December for holiday conflicts. So if you all have any particular scheduling needs and you want to reach out and let me know, I'll probably try to address that at the next meeting. So just as a courtesy, if there's days that you're going to be out of town or something you want me to know about, please let me know. I already mentioned Rock the Block during our break earlier, but Travis may not have heard that. That was when he was cutting out. So Rock the Block is this Friday. The courthouse repairs, Robert already addressed. I have some news on the bypass extension. Hopefully going to get some more details on this, but I think we've received some funding from the State Transportation Department in order to have a environmental impact study. And once you have an environmental impact study funded by the state, that can be sent forward to the federal government for potential federal funding. There's a grant called a BUILD grant. Those of you familiar with Bourbon County may know that they received one, I think, in the ballpark of $30 million. And they're actually commencing construction over there right now, I believe, in conjunction with that project. So we kind of came to the conclusion after our meetings with the state over the past couple of years that it's going to be difficult in the current environment to get state funding for the bypass extension. So we're going to try to see if we can get some help from the federal government and maybe work some of our contacts on that side. And so that's where we are on the bypass. It does look like we're going to have funding for the environmental impact study, and that should make us a more viable candidate for federal dollars. Let's see here. Oh, and also I received a note today. You all may not be aware of this. District 7 Transportation is going to start removing signs from right-of-ways. I know that's been an issue in the past, especially during election season. So if you all have any people in your district who have signs that are in the right-of-way, you may just want to let them know, hey, move that closer to your house. Otherwise, it's subject to be taken up by the state road crew. And there's a prayer walk on Saturday as well. Anyone who wants to participate. That's all I have. So do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor respond by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? This meeting stands adjourned.
Have a good night.
Thank you, Judge.
Good night, everyone. I've got 7:54, Michelle.
Thank you.